In this short video, I want to highlight the Copado and Elements integration. So Salesforce is now a strategic application and orgs are becoming more complex, so any changes risk breaking them. But the business now is demanding agility and faster release cycles. So the integration of Copado and Elements enables both speed and trust. It all starts with feedback from end users, where they see opportunities to streamline or improve Salesforce. Also, you'll end up with requirements that come from a statement of work or from a business initiative. And we need to validate those requirements, and the best way to do that is engage the end users by mapping out their business processes. That will also identify requirements they hadn't thought of. Elements provides the automated org impact analysis associated with all metadata. And then when we create the user stories, we can then drive those user stories via Jira into Copado or straight into Copado. And those user stories also have a risk assessment based on that org impact analysis. Through the Chrome extension, Copado has access to all of the information, process maps, org impact analysis, the user stories, the requirements, but also the ability to add more documentation to the metadata. And that means that we're building up the institutional knowledge of the changes we're making to our Salesforce org, and that improves the org impact analysis the next time we go around that cycle. So I'd like to start the demo by showing you how this looks in Copado, and then we'll cycle back to see how the feedback gets generated. So here we are in Copado with a user story. That user story maybe came through Elements, and here is the link back to the Elements user story, along with the functional specification. If I now look at the metadata items, here are the metadata items that were generated and created inside Copado. Let's look at one of those items, a budget field. And as I open the budget field, you can see that the right-hand panel here with more information about that metadata item. A summary about what that field is, and here we have the right tab that talks about how well populated that field is, where that field is used in one formula field. If I roll over that formula field, it tells me more information about it. It's used in 4 page layouts, 2 validation rules. Again, I can open up any one of these. I can start to see the validation rules. And then I can see here, if I click on here, I can start to see the multi-level dependencies. Now, all of this information in the right panel is coming from the Elements metadata dictionary, which is synchronized every night with the org, and we do all the analysis. And here you can see the multi-level view. Here is that field called budget, again with more information about it. You can see all the items that where it's used. I see there's a custom field here. I can look at that custom field, but because it has a blue cross, it means I can open it up. I can see that field is used in layouts. It is also used by another custom field. I can open it up further. And with any of these items, I can click here, and if I wanted to, I could open up the field inside Setup or inside our metadata dictionary if you wanted more information. Also in this right panel, which is coming from Elements, there's a tab there which is where you can start to see documentation. And in this case, maybe there are some notes here about an integration with Oracle. Or it could be a link to a process diagram. And again, those process diagrams are sitting inside Elements in that metadata dictionary. We can even see the link back to the user requirements. And obviously there is the link back to the user story, which this was initiated from inside Elements. And we can see there's some discussion about this particular change. We can also even look at the field access by profile or by permission set. So all of this information is generated for you automatically, and because of the Chrome extension, pops in to the right panel the moment you open up that metadata item. And that right-hand panel is specific to the particular org. So if this is Sandbox 1, this will be the information from Sandbox 1. If the metadata item we're looking at is in Sandbox 2, this will be the information from Sandbox 2. So it knows not just the user story and the metadata item, but also which org that we're looking at. So here we are in an object. It happens to be a custom object, but it equally well could be a standard object. And you can see there are a number of fields. What is different is you can see the little purple eyes. We've taken over the help icon, and you can see if you click here, there are a number of help topics. This could be notes, it could equally well be a process diagram, maybe have useful help attachments. So the process diagrams that were created at the very beginning to validate the requirements can also be used as pop-up help. But the reason I'm here is I actually want to show you where this all started. Someone left some feedback. This needs to be updated to a currency field. Also the comment, it needs some validation. So that is the feedback that then went through to start to create the requirement and the user story, which then got pushed through to Copado. So here's the feedback. We can see that with the feedback, I can generate either a requirement or a user story. In this case, it already has a user story associated with it, and that's the user story that's made its way through Jira, then onto Copado. There is the user story. You can now start to see that inside Elements, we've already started to think about the metadata items that may be attached. In this case, the object, that budget field. This is where you can start to see we've added some documentation, maybe some notes about initial scope. Equally well, it could be a URL, it could be a screenshot, picture of a whiteboard. And I can see if I scroll down here, I have a status associated with this user story, and I have a link there to Jira. What's interesting about that status is tied to a status in Jira, and that status in Jira is tied to a status in Copado. If you change the status in Copado through the integration, it will change Jira, and then it will change the status here. So we're keeping the user story in Elements, the user story in Jira, and the user story in Copado all in sync. So I've very quickly shown you how you generate feedback. That feedback can then generate a requirement or a user story. There's process maps, there's org analysis, then user stories with the supporting information then get passed through to Copado, synchronized. Then you can add more documentation or see the impact analysis in the context of Copado to make sure that you can drive the DevOps cycle quickly. It's very, very quick and easy to set up Elements. It takes only a couple of minutes to set up a new user, connect the orgs where you want the analysis, and the analysis takes between 15 minutes and 2 hours for the initial synchronization, and then that synchronization of the org and the analysis of the org metadata is done overnight.